We're going to get to the in the gym segment. And I want to pivot to top exercises for growing strong and toned glutes and hamstrings. We talked about deep cheeks joking at the top of the show here, but let's talk about some of the top exercises we could use, John and Marty, digging into your experience, guys, but how to build that strong lower half. And then we're going to come back and wrap up with Community Corner and get into the business and branding segment. All right. So I'm going to put you guys up here. Let's talk lower strength training. Richie, why don't you hang out with the boys here, and we'll come back in 10 minutes to continue the show. All right, Jimmy, let's get me and Flynn off stage.
What a topic. I think first off, coming from what we just were talking about, me saying I've ruptured multiple discs in a lift to get a single point in the I think we should preface that we're not condoning that people have this behavior. This is just a fucking really extreme shit that Rich and I did in our journeys. There's so many ways to great results and better yourself without putting yourself in that harm's way. So obviously this segment, we're talking about kicking ass and taking names, but not hurting yourself. Let's be really square about that before we start off. What do you guys think?
And I'll add on to that. I think in my world, we have A, B, and C races, right? My goal is the A race. So if something pops up in a C race that could potentially be injurious, I'm calling it, because that's my goal. It's all about the A race. So if I got a little tweak, and that happened to me. I died a race before I ran the little 100. I got really sick, started vomiting, dehydrating. And I was like, look, this is not my goal. This is just, and so I think we have to be cognizant and smart about it.
And training especially, yes. And obviously we're talking about glutes here in this segment. And obviously a deadlift is going to fall right into working those glutes. And deadlift is one of those things done safely. You get so much forward progression in terms of what you want. But the flip side is, like when I mentioned that I popped some discs, it was deadlifting, but that wasn't my intention. And I didn't know that I did it. I just pushed through the pain. In training, that stuff never happened. So deadlifting is a massive help to work those glutes, but you've got to do it safely. And if you don't know how to do it safely, you've got to have somebody help you figure it out. And once you can do the movement safely, that's going to be a big part of building your glutes and your hamstrings. Marty, you want to jump on that?
Yeah, it's no shame in doing it with a light weight. I've had clients, male and female, where we had to start with just the bar. Yeah, master the form before you go up in weight. And then we always talk about squats, but I wanted to give something a little more complex. Lunges and step-ups are big for those hamstrings and glutes, right? And when you do those lunges and step-ups, you want to push through your heel, right? That's going to activate the glutes and the hamstrings. Don't put all the pressure on your toe, right? That's how you're going to put a lot of pressure on your knee. But yeah, those are big. And don't be afraid to add some weight to it, man. I'm doing step-ups today. I'm going to have at least 60, 70 pounds in both hands on the step-ups. Throw some weight on there. That's going to be good for the glutes. And since we were talking about the bedroom, you hit those step-ups and lunges, your girl ain't going to be complaining. Go ahead, Rich and John. I just want to throw that in there because that's part of the topic today. Go ahead, fellas.
Wrap it all together, baby. Wrap it all together.
Yes, sir.
On that thing of going light, I agree with it. I have clients that I say, look, you can only do the bar because they don't know what they're doing, but they still get sore using a bar doing a deadlift. Now, using myself as a perfect example, there was a couple of weeks back, I was warming up doing some deads. I'm like, the shit's just not feeling right. And I was trying to get in good position. I was having a hard time. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep this nice and light. I'm going to do sets of 10 on the deadlift, which even if it's lighter weight, that's a ball buster. And then I went and did walking lunges, 15 per leg. So you can take two of these exercises, put them together, and now you're really getting it done. And the risk of hurting yourself is very minimal. Don't think that you got to put yourself in harm's way to work those muscles. Now, another thing too, we got to talk about, the glute is a massive muscle. So this glute can take a hell of a lot of work. So very rare you're going to overtrain your glute. You'll overtrain your lower back. You'll overtrain your hamstrings long before that glute gets overtrained. So sometimes if you really want to build that butt, you can really do some isolation on the glutes, because like I said, the glutes are going to take more work than the muscles around it. And that's a kind of a concept that, if you understand, will help you build that muscle. Richie, you look like you had something to say, bro. Dive in there.
Yeah, no, essentially. And again, to the audience, I'm coming from an endurance perspective, but the glutes are so important, even in running, right? Because my coach always says, this is how we build durability. And when you're talking about running these longer, for folks that are trying to get into ultra or even just starting out, you can start with light weights and do functional movements. So we talk about doing single leg stuff in the endurance world. That way we're focused on that one thing. And what it's going to do is it's going to remove imbalances. So as we start to add distance or start to add intensity into our endurance training, already having that base in the gym is going to put us a step above everyone else that's not doing anything in the gym. So it's a bilateral thing. Even in the endurance world, it's important to work.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
Definitely.
Another thing I hear a lot is that people are like, God, I feel my hamstrings, I feel my lower back, but I don't feel the glute in whatever movement they're doing, which is common. Some people don't have a connection with the glute. And unfortunately, it seems like it always happens to the girls who want to build that muscle. And so the remedy that I have for that, and it works like a charm, basically, whatever you're doing, whether it be a deadlift or a lunge or a step up, before you do that movement, literally just stand there and just clamp your butt cheeks down, squeeze your butt cheeks as hard as you can, get those things, they're going to heat up. I could squeeze my butt cheeks in about 30, 40 seconds. I get a cramp, right? Statically squeeze those cheeks. You can tell when they're starting to really tighten up, then start your exercise. Because you activated the contraction before you started, now the exercise you'll connect the dots between the exercise and the muscle. And that's the biggest issue, is that people don't understand, okay, I'm doing a step up, but I feel it all in my quad. Get that glute squeezed up nice and tight, fatigued, then start the step ups. You'll feel the glutes after you do that. That's a great technique.
I want to add this too. Sometimes you might not feel the muscle, but that doesn't mean it's not working, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about a deadlift or a squat, that especially if you lifting some heavy weight, that's going to be big on our core. You might not necessarily feel your core, but your core is for sure working in those movements. But you're absolutely right, John. But at the same time, don't stress out if you don't necessarily feel the glute, because it's been thousands of times I didn't feel the glute on a hip thrust, a lunge, and they were sore the next day. Just focus on the form, doing the movement correctly, and worry about that other stuff later. But don't stress yourself out with it.
Hey, Marty and John, question for you guys here. People will often overlook that they have a bad back or a bad lower back and not relating it to the fact that it's actually starting in their hamstrings. Can we talk a little bit about that, Marty and John? Because I know I've talked to, especially you guys, some of Carter's buddies, like, I got a bad back. Yeah, but you got to stretch your hams, man. You got to stretch your lower body. You got to start lower. Talk about the power of stretching those hams and how it's affecting that lower posterior chain. Who wants to start?
Well, I want to dive. I agree with that. But here's the thing. Is that when people, generally speaking, when people have back where they say I got a bad back, they veered away from it because they're afraid if they have a bad back and their back is weak. So when you have issues with your back, the number one thing you need to do is work that area, work it safely, bring the strength, the conditioning up. You can do it Superman. There's so many exercises you can do that will have zero risk. When I have clients that come to me with bad backs, first thing I have them do every morning, they're doing 3 to 5, 30 to 60 second Supermans. And literally in a month, they're like, holy shit, I stand up out of a chair. I don't feel that anymore. Well, it's because your back has created enough strength and endurance that it can hold it into place. The back it's designed to be in a certain place. And if the muscles are weak enough that it keeps getting out of that natural position where it's intended, you're going to feel a bunch of weird shit. Oh my God, I got a bad back. I better avoid this. While you're just making the problem worse.
Yeah, I agree with that, Marty.
Yeah, I was gonna say you always got to go to your mechanics, right? So what does your squat look like? What does your deadlift look like? And if you've been doing it with bad form for years and adding weight, a lot of people, you're doing 315, 405 with horrible mechanics, right? That's why your back hurts. And your lower back is a muscle as well. So it should be activated. So you got to be careful. And I know this is controversial, but you got to be careful when you're doing a squat when your spine is straight. Or you're doing a deadlift and your spine isn't rounded and you don't have that neutral spine. So a lot of that is caused from the mechanics because you're not even working your lower back and making that stronger along with the other muscles. So I could talk about this all day. Me and Johnny could talk about this all day. So that's a lot of things. And then as far as the stretching, right, you got to stretch those. It's not just the hamstrings. It could be tight hips. It could be quads. Yeah.
It's the whole posterior chain. The whole posterior chain is what puts pressure on, especially if the back is weak.
Exactly.
Everything else is tight. You're going to feel the weakest part of the link. That's what's going to give you that's what's going to stand out. Exactly. So you strengthen that back. As you're loosening your posterior chain, you're hitting it from both sides. And here's the thing, your back, the way that we live, we don't move in ways that keeps our lower back really strong or conditioned. You have to do it. You sit in a chair all day, your lower back is not getting the movement, the activity it needs to be a good, stable, strong back to carry you into a quality of life. You need to do that. And it doesn't take much. Like I said, if you got back issues, I'm telling you right now, you got back issues, try this. In a month, you're going to be like, what the fuck is going on here? This is amazing. Every day when you get up, don't do it when you're cold. Get your coffee, take a dump, whatever you got to do on your stomach. Literally, Superman flies with his arms out straight. When you lay on your stomach, you're going to literally contract your glutes, contract it. You're going to turn so you're going to basically do this to yourself. You turn, you're up. All that's going to be on the ground is your pelvic, your upper thighs, and your lower abdomen, which is going to put strain on that lower back. You'll feel that lower back especially. Well, you do this 3 to 5 times a day, that lower back is going to get conditioned and strengthened. And you'll notice all of a sudden, God, that my back doesn't bother me when I sit down or when I stand up. Now, don't stop. It takes you 5 minutes a day. Do that shit for the rest of your life and keep those back problems at bay. Brush your teeth to keep your teeth. Do that to keep your back in check.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Superman's, and we're gonna drop some video on our Substack to show folks what the Superman is. But I'm a big fan of the Superman. Richie, comments from you, brother, before they close the segment up.
Yeah. I like what Lauren said. Tight hips too lead to back pain. And the reason, again, coming from an endurance perspective, we do mobility work a lot, right? And so releasing your psoas is one of the best things that you can do, because that psoas muscle connects from your hip up to your spine. And so that's, if you're a runner and you're having some back issues, put a yoga block under your lower back and with your heels together. You can Google it, but releasing your psoas is a great way to start.
Great conversation, guys. Great conversation, Marty, John, Richie. Good stuff around the lower body. And I think we got to talk more about this, because I think we got a lot of men, right, that complain about back pain and lower back pain. And John, I love your advice, man. Don't run away from it, guys. Don't run away from that back pain, because you're running away from that back pain. You're not doing anything to help it. Superman's, the stretching that Richie talked about, working on those hips. I'm telling you, ever since I decided to embrace yoga or just stretching, it's just changed my life. And John, I talked about before, putting my socks on, or Marty doing pigeon and doing hip work. Like, it has been a game changer for me as a 50-year-old man. Not pussy stuff. Man. Like, fuck, touching my toes, such enjoyment, quality of life. I'm telling you.
I would say the quality of life for someone that's having back trouble in their 50s, your life is really compromised, and you've somehow accepted it. You don't have to. You can basically 5 minutes a day, and you can change this 5 minutes a day to have a better quality of life. Who in the hell won't make that trade?
Yeah, exactly. All right, Jimmy, great segment here in the gym with John and Marty here, and Richie Ingram joining us here today as well.